Podcast.
We've started a series where we're going back and interviewing some of the heroic business owners that we've had the privilege of being able to work with. Hey, it's Scott Beebe with Business on Purpose. Make sure to go check out, we've got a ton of new content up on our homepage, mybusinessonpurpose.com. We have gone back and answered some of the toughest questions that we've been asked, and questions that, frankly, a lot of people shy away from. We've put it right there on our homepage. Just go to mybusinessonpurpose.com, scroll down. Eric Burton is a guy who you will hear, heard me tell him, if you want to graduate from our program, you're going to have to take 30 days away from your business. And he did it. I walk with Eric through the entire thing. Eric Burton of Street Sounds. He owns Street Sounds in Nashville, Tennessee, a couple locations. And I think you're really, really going to enjoy this interview with Eric Burton. Eric Burton, welcome, man. We're excited to be able to have this conversation on the Business on Purpose podcast.
Scott, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to meet up with you.
Yeah, man, you're one of our heroes. We love and have loved following your story and watching you and how you're building the business and all those sorts of things. Hey, before we dive in, make sure anybody's listening, go to bopwebinar.com. You will check out the latest webinars we've been doing. We're doing at least once a month here recently, and we may even crank that up a little bit more, but that is open to all of our existing clients and also people we do not work with. So just go to bopwebinar.com. Purpose of our podcast is we want to celebrate our business owners, the people that we have the opportunity to be able to work with and reflect on the things that they've worked really, really hard for. We want to talk about some of their exciting times, some of their failures, celebrate the growth, and high five the next degree of liberation from chaos. And so, Eric Burton, let's dive right in, man. I'm so excited to have this talk because we've been working together for a few years, and I just realized I've got bits and pieces, but we've never gotten the whole. And so I want to get the whole, and I want to go back a little bit. Before you started Street Sounds, who was the Eric Burton pre-Street Sounds?
Oh man. So I've always enjoyed sports. So, in high school, I played basketball and baseball. And my dad had a small construction business. So from the age of like 5 years old to about 17, if I wasn't at school or playing sports, I had to be on the job site. So he was a single parent. So he, I think a lot of perseverance and grit, watching him live his life out. And then from the age of 19 until now, I got hired on at Street Sounds at 19 years old. So I was still a kid, when I got hired on. I'm still a kid today, but so anyways, that's kind of what I did. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but
yeah. So there's two things that jump out at me. One, you mentioned that your dad's a single dad. So I want to talk about that for a minute, but also you started at Street Sounds, but now you own the company. So there's got to be a story there. So I want to dive into that a little bit as well, but talk about your dad and that situation. We actually have another client who is a single dad of 3 kids. And as soon as you mentioned that, he popped straight into my head. And I want you to talk about the kids side of growing up with a single dad who owned a construction company. What was it? Did you have siblings? What was that like?
Oh yeah, I had siblings. Got 4 siblings that lived in the house with us. And if I could sum it all up, I would use the word stressful. It was, it was definitely a stressful atmosphere. My mother was in the picture, and we have a good relationship. They just decided to separate. So anyways, he got full custody of us. And anyways, looking back at it, right, there was some really high stressful atmospheres. But a lot of that, in my opinion, could kind of be boiled down to some of the stuff you teach. If you can structure your business, in a way where it's not as stressful, you're not taking that stress home to you, home with you. So anyways, that's my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a single parent is stressful all in itself. So,
Yeah. All right. So you got hired on to Street Sounds at 19 years of age. Now
yep.
you own the company.
Yeah. So
And what was the
19,
transition?
19, I walked in and I asked for a job. They said no. So I went back home. I started working on some stuff. I brought it to him the next time, showed it to him. I was real proud of it. The owner looked at it and he said, that looks like crap, except he didn't use that word. So I left and basically repeated that process 2 more times. And on about the 4th or 5th time, they hired me on. And then a year after being hired on, I was just hired on as a junior tech, right? So, sweeping floors, right? Setting up the technicians, stuff like that. About a year after that, they offered me 33% of the business. And then stayed partners with them for 10 years. And then basically my wife and I, we had accumulated enough assets separately and with them where we decided to trade some assets out. I kept Street Sounds and then they took some of the other stuff because during those 10 years we opened up 4 other businesses. So anyways.
All right. So this is crazy. So you're 20, 21, and you're offered 33% of the business. You then partner for 10 years, which is hard enough in itself to even just have partners, but to let alone go for a decade. Start 4 businesses within that time. So go back to being 2021. No offense. Why did they offer you 33% of the business? And I assume there was a buy-in?
Well, it definitely wasn't because of my high school graduation certificate because I didn't have one of those. No, it was, man, my dad taught me a lot about work ethic. And he'll tell you this, right? Even though he wasn't that great with money, he put me with people that were. So anyways, when they offered me a portion of the business, I think it was 2 parts. One, it was to lock in good help, right? So the model that they were trying to achieve was something similar to Chick-fil-A with that owner operator style. And then the other thing was the company as a whole, when I joined, we looked really good, but financially we were in a mess. And I was able to get us out of a couple little small problems. And I think they saw that, if they banked on me, that I could help, that I could bring value to the partnership.
So when you say some of these small problems, you don't have to go into detail, but are we talking about not enough revenue? What were some of the challenges that, and again, no offense, but you're in your early 20s and you got to see a lot with your dad, but at the same time, you've never been in a business at this point. What were some of the financial challenges that you had to help get, and how did you know how to do that?
I knew what I was running from, if that makes sense. So I've always been real driven. And part of that was knowing that I didn't want the same lifestyle for long term, right? So when I joined with them, we were in a financial mess. Now, personally, I was sitting pretty good because I had been working. I mean, my dad started paying me when I was 14 years old. So by this time, from 14 to about 20, I had accumulated, a decent amount of cash, and that's just mainly savings. I hadn't learned how to invest properly yet. So anyways, we had a vendor where we owed them $100,000. There was all kinds of tax liabilities that we owed, right? And basically, there's nothing sophisticated about it. I just grab a notebook and a pencil and I start jotting things down, right? You write the A, like where you're at currently. You write the B, where you want to be at. And then you build the bridge. And then you just track what you built that bridge out of, right? So like, if I did these actions, did that get me to my B? And if it didn't, well, then you go back and you change the bridge, right? So you just do that, and normally, at least for me, right? after rebuilding that bridge 2 or 3 times, right, changing your tactics 2 or 3 times, you finally find what works for you. And then it's just wash, rinse, and repeat, right? So we just kept doing that with our vendors, tax liabilities, and other stuff like that.
Did you ever finish high school?
I did finish high school, yeah. Yeah, I graduated with a 3.8.
Wow. Congratulations. So it sounds like you had a high school diploma alongside a lot of street smarts from your dad, and even learning from a 21-year-old. And, kudos to these guys that own Street Sounds before you got there to see that inside of you. These 4 businesses you started intermittently. What were those businesses? Were they all within the kind of the car audio installation world, or what were those?
No, they had nothing to do with that. And what was nice about it was, as they were offering me a portion of ownership, they were also trying to branch out into completely different industries, right? The guys in our industry, we don't get the best, rapport a lot of times. Most of us guys are, back pocket guys, right? We're making up stuff. We don't keep good financial records. It's not an industry where people just dream to go into. So anyways, they were trying to get out of that industry, right? But right now, that industry is what was paying everybody's bills, right? As far as us personally. So anyways, what was nice about it was I was one of the guys that allowed them to have a portion of that freedom so they could go venture out into different industries. So anyways, one of them was real estate, right? We started buying rental properties. The other one was a commercial upholstery division where we did, because we're in Nashville, Tennessee, there's a lot of tour bus companies, right? So anyways, they need custom upholstery finished, right, inside these tour buses. And then that branched into building restaurants, right, the restaurant booths and upholstery for that. And then there was another company that was branched out that did window treatments. So window coverings for hotels and stuff like that. So anyways.
Fascinating business and interesting industries to try to get into. Okay, so you're going. When did you, or maybe you haven't, when did you move into majority owner of the business? Are you the only owner today? How does that work out? And when did that happen in the transition?
Yeah, legally, I'm the only owner. You know, I this happened in the end of 2015 and the beginning of 2016 was when we 100% legally separated. So 4 years prior to that, we had been basically operating as we were separate, right? Just testing certain things out. And then when everything kind of was a go, that's when we legally separated.
Okay. All right. So the business has basically been under your leadership for the last 5-ish, going on 6 years now. And so you've seen some things grow. So you came into the Business on Purpose world a few years ago, and we had a chat just about where Street Sounds was. Talk to us about where the company was when you got it, day to day, organizationally, structure-wise, that chaos that we talk all about. Where were you? Because it sounds like you were leveraging a lot of those street smarts to build out some health into the business. But you also felt like there were some other things that you needed to do. What were some of those hurdles that you felt like you needed to jump?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to sum that up is pretty much everybody that works at Street Sounds, one, we care about the healthiness of the company, but two, we're just go-getters. The problem with that is when you get a room full of go-getters with no vision, we ain't going nowhere, right? Everybody's going in their own different direction. And then we spend the majority of our time trying to fix problems that we created if that makes sense. There was just no vision. Uh, there was no flow where each individual kind of said, "Hey, this is my responsibility, and this is what I'm responsible for. So this is what I'm going to run with." And Business on Purpose came in. It helped us, solidify that. And then, just to be honest with you, a lot of the guys that work at Street Sounds knew more about street sounds than I did. So the Business on Purpose just helped me. I would create these systems and processes, then I'd bring it to them and they'd look at it and laugh at it and say, "That's garbage. This is how we're doing it." And I'd read it and I'd be like, "Yeah," because, we're not trying to be egomaniacs. We're trying to, get to the solution. Right. So, whoever brings a better solution, we roll with that. So anyways, now that everything's pretty much documented and it's in one section, Eric Burton didn't really create those processes, if that makes sense. It was, each individual, but it gave me a framework because these guys aren't teachers, right? So I didn't even know the questions to really be asking them. And, Business on Purpose helped, give me this framework where I could go and now get everybody's information and take it to one spot so we could be a lot more organized.
So it wasn't that you guys didn't really have systems and processes. It's that they were all in everybody's head for the experts who were doing the work.
Correct. And then if
somebody left.
Exactly. That's
yeah.
Somebody leaves or somebody goes on vacation or something like that, almost all productivity stops.